Today on Locked On Rockies, time to fire up the positivity hype machine, and let's talk about best case scenarios for the Rockies in 2025.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 22nd day of November in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you that daily Colorado Rockies talk, as well as daily Rockies talk on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, the best place for you to get involved with the show. You got a Rockies hot take, you got a question you want to ask, you want to be part of the show, head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, subscribe to there, and leave a comment for us there in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Guess what? We've had now 3 days. This is going to be our third episode in a row where we're going to go into the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section, and we're going to read stuff from there. We got a Dodger fan checking in with an interesting take here after our episode talking about if Juan Soto goes to the Dodgers. So be part of the show. I want the conversation this offseason and really all the time to be about what you guys want to hear about. So if you got stuff on your mind with the Rockies, let me know. Today on the show, we're gonna play. We're gonna play the best case scenario game. We're gonna just kind of be. We're gonna take a big sip of hopium, and we're gonna enjoy some, off-season hypotheticals. The beauty of sports talk in the off-season, right? That's what we're gonna do, and I will give us a reality check on how likely I think those are, at the best I can. And then we'll finish the show with YouTube comments. Before we dive into everything today, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Before we get into all of the other fun, all the other good stuff, I should say, that we're going to get into today, I want to point out just something small, just something a little bit. I mean, it was something that caught me by surprise yesterday. Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge winning the MVPs. Not that surprising to me. Not really. The most surprising thing, Ezequiel Tovar got votes for MVP. Later on, just a handful of 9th, 10th place votes. Nothing major, nothing big, but that's really cool. People out there were paying attention. 2 of them, at least. But here's from Patrick Lyons. With a 19th place finish in the 2024 NL MVP voting, Ezequiel Tovar becomes the second youngest member of the Rockies to appear on an MVP ballot. Troy Tulowitzki, 22 years, and 355 days old on the final day of the regular season, is the youngest in franchise history. The last time the Rockies had a player finish in the top 10 of NL MVP voting was 2019. Nolan Arenado. All this again still from Patrick Lyons. The 5-year drought is the longest in franchise history. The previous low water mark was 3 years, 2012 to 2014. In case you are curious as well, here, just one more thing from Patrick. That 19th place finish for Tovar ties him with Paul Skeens and Teoscar Hernandez. Pretty good, pretty good people to be on the same level as, at least in the eyes of some other folks. Even just to be on that ballot for Ezequiel Tovar is a massive step. Ellie De La Cruz got a lot of love up there, but remember, we looked into the numbers. So that'll be my last case there. And let's use that as our launching point in for what are the best case scenarios for the Rockies. The number one best case for a scenario for the Rockies is the young trio develops and the Rockies establish themselves with the 3-player core. And I am cautiously optimistic that this one is going to happen. I believe we will see the best version of Ezequiel Tovar next year. I believe I am a little nervous about Brenton Doyle just because we've seen now two extreme ends of the spectrum for Brenton Doyle. However, what encourages me the most about Brenton Doyle for next year is there last year it wasn't a slow start into that. It was a complete year for Brenton Doyle of good to great baseball. Brenton Doyle, if he did what he did in that adjustments, there really should be no reason for me to believe that he can't continue on and continue to grow at the rate that he did. I think the biggest question mark out of that will be Nolan Jones, and I do factor Nolan Jones into the situation here, because I think when you're looking at what could be a huge possible game changer for the Colorado Rockies is if if Nolan Jones gets stays healthy, shows what we shows the first season type of Nolan Jones. If season 1 Nolan Jones is more of the norm that we're going to get from Nolan Jones, the Rockies have two players in the outfield that are game changers. They have two players in the outfield that really help with the situations that you find yourselves in at Coors Field, with Brenton Doyle's elite ability to cover center field and Nolan Jones' ability to throw the ball, over their mountains. Those two mixed with those two defensive combinations make Coors Field less of a threat. When you're looking at the things that I've talked about a lot on this show of really leaning into understanding your ballpark and fighting, or not fighting, and making moves that will help you minimize the damage of your home ballpark while capitalizing on it. And then obviously there's the whole other question of taking it on the road. But the point is, not only would it be a huge defensive it's a huge defensive upswing for the Rockies when both of those guys are playing their best game. But if Nolan Jones is the type of offensive threat that we saw in year 1, mixed with this new Brenton Doyle, mixed with Ezequiel Tovar, that can be a really solid core. That's a really solid core on offense and defense and young guys. That starts to build the hype when you're looking in the Rockies' histories, at least in the playoff times. You start looking at those pockets of players, Tulo and Holiday and Helton there, and then Cargo and Tulo. And DJ, mixing in with that. And then you get to the playoffs, and then it's Story and Nolan and DJ. Even throw Charlie Blackmon in there. Once you're starting to build that repertoire of these guys starting to come into their own as solid major leaguers, not only just solid major leaguers, but all-star caliber players that could be, be winning silver sluggers and XYZ. That's a huge game changer for the Rockies. Not only is that something that'll help them on the field, but then that's who you have your guys that will start reigniting excitement amongst Rockies fans. You will have people that when you go, you're already doing it. I know when you're taking people that haven't followed the Rockies or been out of the loop on the Rockies for a long time, and you point to the shortstop and you say, that's Ezequiel Tovar. He's the next young big thing. He just got MVP votes last year. And, since they don't follow baseball, don't give them the context of where he finished. Tell me if he got some MVP votes there, hype him up a little bit. Then you point to center field and you say, that's Brenton Doyle. That guy has already won 2 Gold Gloves in his 2 years at playing center field at Coors. And then you point to Nolan Jones. It's like, that guy's got a rocket for an arm and he's a 2020 guy, just like the guy next to him is a 2020 guy. That's one of the best case scenarios for the Colorado Rockies, is those 3 guys taking that step forward and taking that step forward together. Those guys leading the team, all really setting the tone, setting the stage, and mixed with that, another best case scenario would be a complete full season of consistency from Ryan McMahon. It's what the Rockies desperately need. Hopefully, I'm wondering if the mantle of offensive burden can be removed from Ryan McMahon, and he doesn't have to press so much to be the big off the 4-hole, the 3-hole, the guy that we're really looking at and saying, that's our main bat, that's our big bat. I think that's going to help him. I think Ryan McMahon will benefit from having solid hitters around him. Less, he doesn't need to be as aggressive, can get actually not worrying about, just trying to hit the hell out of the ball. If those guys are all taking steps forward, if those guys are all contributing at the top of the lineup, then you're allowing you're giving Ryan McMahon a little protection there in the lineup. And that will and it's clear that Ryan McMahon is viewed highly in that organization. And it is clear that Ryan McMahon is a good ball player. We just need to see a full season. We can't have a good first half and a cold second half. We can't have a bad first. No. We need the best. So that's a simple one. If we're looking for a simple best case scenario, it's a full season of the Ryan McMahon that we know he can be. And to jump out and to springboard off of that, it's the Rockies drastically cut down their strikeouts. Because that mixes in with both of those first best case scenarios we're talking about. The best chance the Rockies have at improving their offense, at winning more games. I truly believe this. It starts with the strikeouts. I think the biggest issue and my biggest concern with the Colorado Rockies is this team's offensive woes. I know the pitching is a thing. I know the pitching is a problem. But to be totally honest, going into this year, and we'll talk about pitching best case scenarios in segment number 2, so that don't worry. As many concerns as there are rightfully to be had about pitching, the Colorado Rockies cannot be a bottom dweller in offense. You just can't. It goes against everything that's been successful for the team in the past. And the biggest glaring issue with the Rockies is the strikeouts. It's the amount of strikeouts. The worst, most frustrating parts about watching the Rockies last year, there's mistakes, but it's the games where you're watching 3 games in a row and it's 10 strikeouts per game. You're watching the Rockies go down on 3 strikes with the bases loaded. There's, numerous examples of the Rockies' strikeout plague being a huge problem. And so I'm talking, if we're talking a best case scenario for the Rockies finish in the top half of least strikeouts. That's the best case scenario. Will it happen? I highly doubt it. I ain't holding my breath. This is one of those things as a Rockies fan, I can sit and I can maybe look at numbers. I can have hope in an offseason process. I can do X, Y, Z. But until I see it on the field, until I see this Rockies team actually strike out less, I'm not going to hold my breath. Not going to hold my breath about it until I see it. That is a prove it category for the Rockies in 2025. They have to show that and that goes with the development of all these guys. That goes with the development of all these young players as well. I mean, we're talking about that young core, that first 3. How many strikeouts was just Ezekiel Tovar responsible for last year? How many times did Nolan Jones strike out in that first season? And we, Brenton Doyle with the improvements, but he wasn't immune to the striking out. Same with Ryan McMahon. If we're going to count on a full great season of Ryan McMahon, it's got to come with the strikeouts. I mean, the Rockies need to be even if it's 15th or whatever, that's fine. You need to be in the good side of the half of Major League Baseball when it comes to strikeouts. The lowest, you want to be in that lower half as compared to the bottom half to bottom of baseball in most strikeouts allowed there where the Rockies have found themselves. That would be huge. It really would be huge. And another best case scenario for the Rockies is that Drew Romo also takes the step forward and becomes a solid, becomes a starting MLB catcher. Because Patrick Lyons was making some good points on his show the other day about the gamble that comes along with Jacob Stallings. Because while it's fine, it's good to have that ad, but if you with not only the money and possible incentives that Lions pointed out, but that playing time. I mean, if you really do stick with he gave the example of 80 games. If you stick with 80 games, we talked about it yesterday. How does Hunter Goodman factor into that? What does that look like for Drew Romo? So in reality, I think a best case scenario there too for the Rockies. Jacob Stallings has a strong first half of the season. A contender is interested in him, and you flip him. I don't think that's crazy. Then you go half of the season with Romo and Goodman behind the dish. You see what you get in Goodman. You get an asset in the trade. And Stallings gets to go and play for a contender. Not that crazy to me. All right, let's keep the hype up. Let's keep the hype train alive, and then let's talk about a little pitching, best case scenarios, and the possibilities of all this happening. We're going to do that next, coming up on Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Do you need tickets for an event? And I'm not talking just sports. The latest shows, concerts, comedy, whatever's going on in your area. Are you running out of time? Do you need a last-minute ticket deal? Well, Gametime's got you covered because Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And when you toggle that all-in pricing feature, you're going to see the total cost up front. So you're going to know exactly what you're going to pay right there. Boom, right in front of you. Get a panoramic view from your seat with the app before you buy, and you can get the lowest price guarantee. If you find a lower price, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You are in the right spot. That's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. I am your host, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been bringing you this Rockies talk for over 3 seasons now. Loving this team my entire life. Hey, for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. My guy Sully's got you covered with all things Major League Baseball, and Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, keeping you covered here in the Colorado sports landscape. So we're talking best case scenarios for the Rockies. We were focusing on the offense in some areas over there. And let's go to the pitching now. And I think this one's obvious. The starters stay healthy, and they are versions of themselves that we've seen in the past. The Rockies are counting on quality performances from guys that they've believed in basically their entire careers. The Rockies will go as far as Kyle Freeland, Antonio Senzatella, and German Marquez can take them. And then, fill in the back end of the rotation with who you want. But let's not sit here and ignore the fact that is the definition of where the Rockies need to be. On paper, this will be the strongest starting Rockies rotation going into a season that they've had since the injuries to Senza and German Marquez. On the other side, Marquez and Senza have been away for a while and have also been dealing with some pretty serious injuries. So that's some massive context to that situation right there. And again, I will never be afraid to admit that I'm a Kyle Freeland guy. I'm a Kyle Freeland guy forever. And if you look at most of the performances last year and Kyle Freeland overall, he did pretty darn good outside of, unfortunately, the things that have plagued him for his entire career, which are some performances are really, really bad, mixed with also the Rockies being historically bad to start the season. But I will never not believe in Kyle Freeland. He didn't finish the season last year with a negative WAR. He ended up salvaging what was a nightmare start to the season. And in his last 5 games, the Rockies won 3 out of the last 5. And that it's unfortunate that he lost a close game there against the Dodgers in that one as well, after pitching six innings in that one. Got to worry about the earned runs for my guy Kyle. But again, this is a guy that has rocked with Colorado for 8 years now. This is a guy that has been, I think, someone the Rockies have been able to count on at least 100 innings in the last 4 seasons, and at least 110 if you want to go higher than that, even with dealing with some of the injury struggles that he has had. When we are looking for at least something to be, consistent and confident in, I don't think that the Rockies are going to lose the game when Kyle Freeland's on the bump. That's not how I feel. That wasn't always the case with other Rockies arms, and it certainly wasn't the case at the end of ball games last year. But really, realistically, those 3 arms are key to whatever success the Rockies will see this year. And they're also key to setting the tone for the season, I think, as well. There's a lot of pieces and a lot of things that go into with offenses, but if your starting pitching staff can come out and start the season strong, something that we know Herman struggles with sometimes, that's a huge tone setter for this Rockies team. And it will be completely the opposite of how the Rockies started the season in 2024 with a historic bad trailing streak, a historic bad start to the season, and XYZ. Those guys are going to be huge tone setters. And that also factors into what does the back end of the Rockies rotation look like? And do you finally feel a little bit more confident in the Rockies back end of the rotation? Because they're using guys there that have seen some time and have shown some interesting stuff. But while there can, put in whoever you want in that back end, I think specifically focusing on the best case scenario would be the Rockies pitchers that they love and believe in. Those 3 guys, Marquez, Senza, and Freeland, they start the year off and have great years, and they set the tone for the team. Because remember how opening day went for the Rockies last year. And if that wasn't an omen for things to come, I don't know what was. And then next, let's just go with the a best case scenario too is the Rockies do get pitching time to some of their younger arms. Because unfortunately, injuries will happen. So I don't know. It's hard to put that one as a best case scenario. But I guess you can look at it and say, hey, best case scenario, Condon has a great spring, and the Rockies look at it like the rest of baseball, and they say, why waste pitches in AAA and AA? Let's get you up here. Let's get you going against the majors. That would be a best case scenario as well. Absolutely. But I think my main focus there is on those 3 veteran players to start. Second best case scenario for the bullpen is someone emerges as Victor Vodnik takes a full step into that closing role, is successful at it, and the entire young bullpen signifies a new era of Rockies bullpen, of young guys that can come out of the bullpen, and you have multiple guys that will hit 100, which it does seem positive. The Rockies have that. And you have guys that will have brutal movement and brutal things that make it incredibly difficult. The best case scenario is the young bullpen mixed with whatever veteran presence is going to be in that bullpen. A couple of trades, a couple of things the Rockies have already done this offseason, mixed with Lawrence and Kinley there as well. Gilbreth is an option in there as well. But those young guys all set a new standard for the Rockies bullpen of holy cow. It might be Coors, but you're in trouble now. You got these guys coming in here throwing heat. You got Chivihi, you got Hollowell, you got Criswell, you got all these. I say Hollowell, Sam. Did I? I think I messed up some of the names there, but we're still. And that's the other thing. They established, these young bullpen guys established themselves in the league. They established themselves with Rockies fans. They start saying, hey, the reason to watch the Rockies is the pitching. That could be a crazy thing to say. I mean, if these bullpen arms can pan out like we hope they do, that bullpen can be electric next year. That bullpen can be really exciting to watch. So that's another best case scenario. So how likely do I really think all of these scenarios are? I think every single one of them does have a realm of possibility to them with a massive grain of salt. The biggest question is, though, we can like these players. We can be hyped up. There could be good fundamentals. There could be good core. There could be a good profile for these guys. My question will just always go back to, can this organization develop and get these guys into the position to be the most successful? Can the Rockies help develop these guys? And again, not only is this a prove it year for some players, this is once again another prove it year for the eyes of the fans, not the organization. I mean, they're impressed with what Bud Black and his coaching staff have done. But I do think that this coaching staff, and I think Bud Black needs to show why he's back this year, show why he was chosen to come back, and show why we had confidence and faith in him, and show us the manager that got the Rockies to back-to-back playoff years when he first started. But to just kind of throw that context in, I do think Nolan Jones is going to bounce back. I do think that the Rockies are going to have a really, really exciting young core of young guys next year with those three. I do think that if healthy, the Rockies starters put the Rockies in the best position that they've been in with the starting rotation in a while. Not top of the league rotation. Probably not even top half of the league in rotation. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that you don't feel better about this rotation going in to start the season versus like the last 2 or 3 seasons of rotations, then I got to disagree with you. I think we know what these players can do. We've seen success from these guys, and it opens up the back end of the bullpen. I mean, if Quantrill becomes your 4, who was your 2 last year, that's depth. And then the 5th spot, if you do go Feltner, you do go one of these young, exciting guys, that's pretty great. And then Gomber could go to the bullpen. Gomber, there's options there. Or if you have Gomber there, I mean, there's at least some intrigue there where it's not these guys that are fighting for spots at the back end of the rotation. They're not your number 3. So anyway, I think those are and I do think that we will see a lot of development from young guys. Bullpen, I got to see it. I don't want to get over my skis with the young bullpen. I was super high on Justin Lawrence, and then unfortunately it all fell apart. But I am hopeful there. I certainly am hopeful there. But I do think that in all of the grand scheme of things, I do think that the Rockies can find themselves in better scenarios and better spots than last year. But it's going to take a lot of proving. It's going to take a lot of people taking steps forward and Rockies taking steps forward that we haven't always seen. So there's definitely some hesitation there. All right, we've gone way long. I got to take a break, and then we're going to read some quick YouTube comments to close out the show. Let's take a break. FanDuel.com is also helping you get your Locked On Rockies fix, and they got great deals for you to get in on the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Rockies podcast here. We are running late, so we're going to jump quickly to the Locked On Rockies YouTube comments here from earlier this week. Remember, we want to hear from you folks. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies here. Here's Pizza in the Box. This says, the Dodgers filed for bankruptcy in 2011 and didn't have a media deal. Their fans boycotted to get the owner to sell. They had bad ownership before that, too, when Fox owned them. Now they have ownership that is willing to gamble money to win. Fans need to put more pressure on their owners. You vote with your ticket sales. The D-backs almost went all the way. They should have built on that and went all in the next offseason. Owners that can't afford Soto can at least hire better pitching and hitting lab people, a few more scouts, a few better developmental staff, and not sell off their stars. Those seem to be bigger problems with teams that consistently put out a big product where their fans go a generation without some playoff success. Yeah, I mean, this is all great context, too. And if there, I mean, the problem is, I think that the same pressure doesn't necessarily apply. The Rockies now, they lost their, when it comes to that, the media stuff, they're just a league run one now. They didn't even have a chance to figure that out. And man, the local sports watching experience in Denver for your local teams and availability has just been a nightmare for the past few seasons. But I'm with you on the fact that this team should be much better about hiring people for pitching and lab, hiring more people behind the scenes or hiring different people, making adjustments. Absolutely. But just to give some context, Rockies attendance is dipping, and I can't imagine that their streaming service was all that popular. I think Rockies fans are speaking louder than people give them credit for, because they'll look at Coors Field and they'll say, look at all those people. It is almost every home series, and I'm not afraid to say this, almost every home series last year, Rockies fans were outnumbered. Teams that have strong followings or teams that have that travel well or anything like that absolutely outpaced Rockies fans at home. The Rockies certainly were playing away games at home more often than not. But it's great points there about the power of the fan there. Pizza in the Box, I appreciate that. And this is Pin Variety, I think, or I'm close. I'm probably not nailing it, but says, I'm a Dodgers fan, but I feel for you Rockies fans. Sure, you're not being treated as badly as A's fans. Very true. But that's a pretty low bar to cross. Your franchise just puzzles the hell out of people. And considering that I believe you still hold the record for top attendance in a year, ownership's timid/cheapness seems indefensible on the grounds of we're a small market. Denver's not a small market. I'm never going to believe that. I'm never going to buy that. I'm totally with you there. Follows up with this. By the way, I think you're right about it not being an overall plus for baseball if they sign him. I personally don't believe this is in context to the Dodgers signing Juan Soto. I personally don't believe they're going to, and a lot of us Dodgers fans don't even particularly want him, which of course is insane on a certain level. And you're also right about the inherited advantages that LA, New York, and I'd argue Chicago and Houston franchises have. Those are the 4 largest cities in the country, and it's just an unfortunate fact that their fan bases are larger than the Reds or Rays, for example. Lots more there on this one too, but really great stuff here from Pin. And thanks for checking us out and being we've had Dodgers fans pop in, and it's always great when we can see when fans from other teams can kind of get our perspective a little bit, and then we get perspective like that. So really appreciate that. Remember, we're reading comments, we're interacting with you there in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Come hang out with us on the show. Come ask your questions. But folks, that is going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. You can find us also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. So really would appreciate your support there. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. And for more Colorado sports coverage, go check out Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.